Hey everybody, today we are going to play Holy, Holy, Holy God with Us. This is Matt Maher's arrangement of the traditional hymn, Holy, Holy, Holy. Now, as per usual, when it comes to a lot of his arrangements, he tends to spruce up the accompaniment with a more modern style, and he will add a refrain that is different that doesn't exist in the original hymn. So he does that. There's going to be some changes I'm going to make here. We'll explain at the end of the video why I did them and if you should or shouldn't do them. That's entirely up to you. But for now, let's play the song. We'll talk about this stuff at the end. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, early in the morning our song shall rise to thee. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. Holy, 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 all the saints adore thee, casting down their golden crowns around the glassy seas. Cherubim and seraphim falling down before thee, which word and art and evermore shall be. From the cradle to the cross, God with us, God with us. For this broken world you love, God with us, God with us. You gave up your only Son, God with us, God with us. So that all the world you know our God with us. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, all thy works shall praise thy name in earth and sky and sea. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. From the cradle to the cross, God with us, God with us. For this broken world you love, God with us, God with us. You gave up your only Son, God with us, God with us. So that all the world you know our God with us. So that all the world would know our God with us. Okay, let's talk about this song a little bit up front. All right, so there's two main differences. When you listen to the recording is in D flat, which is exactly what I played with your capo on 1. It will work just fine. If you wanted to play along with it, you could practice the exact same way, throw the capo on, and you're set. The real difference of what I did differently versus the way this is written is I cut out the measures of rest in the third measure and the fourth measure type sections of each verse. And I did that because at the end of the day, this is an old hymn that everybody knows. And everybody's going to sing it the way they remember it, the way they grew up, the way they've always heard this. You'd have to go find a group of church members that have never heard Holy, Holy, Holy. It's going to be really hard to do, and you will end up, I don't want to say arguing with them, but you'll be fighting this song by trying to force them to wait for you to come back in. The way it's written is this: Holy, 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 rest, Lord God Almighty, rest. And you're gonna, they remember this song to go straight through it, and it's a small price to pay. We've already changing the accompaniment style. We're not playing it on an organ or a piano. We're on a guitar, and then we're gonna add this refrain at the end, the from the cradle to the cross part, and that's not present in the song at all. So that's new to them, and that's it. So why fight this spot? There's a few that I like. For example, God in three persons. I like that 2/4 rest. Blessed Trinity. I like this one, which turns it around to the next verse. Okay, so I like those there. But the ones in the middle, like the third measure and the seventh measure, I'm not really. Is it third? So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sixth measure, third and sixth measure. Sorry. Now, when you get to verse 1 and verse 2 are back to back. In verse 2, you get some harmonies that start to come in. I am reading this off of Praise Charts. Okay, this is the lead sheet SAT chart that I like to use, and they always stack the harmonies in treble clef, and it does drive me nuts because it's so easy to misread them. I've been doing it for a while, so it doesn't bother me as much, but it's really easy for a lot of our singers to kind of get lost in their part and trying to read ledger lines, low ledger lines and treble clef while it's stacked harmonies with 3 other notes. Now, in the verses, the parts goes as such. Top note, melody. Holy, holy, holy. All right, middle notes is the alto. Holy, really low. Okay, and now next below that, the lowest part is going to be your tenors. It's really not a bass part. So your basses can either sing the melody with you or they can double with the alto. The only thing I don't like about them doing the altos is you need to keep in mind at the end of the phrase, a lot of times the altos will end on the fifth. As far as like a harmony chord, and you don't let's just say if it's, for example, we end on a C chord, right? And our melody ends on a C. We say our tenors end on the third for whatever reason, and the altos on the fifth. I know that's maybe our melody's here. There we go. Then here's our melody. Here's our tenors. Here's our altos. And there's the melody bass. All of a sudden, if you have the G that the altos were singing, you tell your bassist to do it, and now you're down here, and then as they sing this pitch over the root, and it doesn't resolve like it would if they sang it here. So I really tend to like, whenever I have my basses double with the altos, I like to change their last pitch to always be the root. I don't like having the lowest pitch be a harmony pitch, especially not the fifth. It sounds, fifth or third sounds really odd. So just keep that in mind, depending on what you're giving this to. It's really just a 3-part song, but if you have older male singers or just you have basses, you have to give them a part, that or the melody, okay? Now, when we get to the 2 chorus, which for me in my music, it's pickups 251, then the soprano and alto switch. The melody is on the bottom. That's the... what is that pitch? From the cradle to the cross, God with us, God with us. That's on the bottom. And tenors, you're singing that at pitch, okay? This isn't like a from the cradle to the cross. You take it up and you sing it where it actually is. If that was in bass clef, you'd be singing up over the bass clef staff lines. And so at pitch, just remember that. Your sopranos get to turn into basically alto supporting vocals, and they don't like that very much, but they have to do it. Their top part it's the from the cradle to the cross, God with us, God with us. They're not going to be a huge fan of it. You can give them the melody, but it depends on what type of singers you have. If your sopranos are gospel-y or they kind of have a younger voice that doesn't have a rich classical vibrato. It's kind of dry. It works really well because you have to realize that coming up is an F. Okay, if they have a classical voice, it sounds very weird to have, you know, I'm gonna end up making fun of myself for this one, but for this broken world you love, God with us, God with us. That's a high F. If you have a soprano going, God with us, it doesn't work very well. I'm gonna regret doing that. But the point is that think of your context, think of the style of this song. Don't give that to a soprano if they can't sing it dry and God with us. It works way better if you let them do that. All right. Now, that pretty much covers our vocals there. Now, let's talk about this guitar part. Okay. I think you should use a pick. If you can't, you can do this finger style, but I think you should use a pick. All right. So in a typical hybrid picking pattern that we're going to do here, we're basically staying between the A string and the B string. We're never going to touch this high E string on our finger pattern. You will touch the low E when you are playing G's and F sharps. Other than that, we're staying between the A and the B. All right. So our pattern is your pick finger, right? So your thumb and index, they're going to take the low A, and they're going to take the D string. Your middle finger is going to take the G, and your ring finger is going to take the B. And what we end up coming up with is this. All right. Notice that's your first set of pitches. So you get two picks. A, D, G, as far as string names go. Now, there's a lot of walking bass lines on this one. Holy, holy. This one does a really good job of you need to notice what that chord is written as and follow it. Okay, the C is here, the C over B, and then you have this F over A. You need that, and then your C, then G, A. Now you can turn into a G. It doesn't matter if you play a real G there because depending on the fingers that you're actually using, you're not actually touching anything that involves a G outside of this. So I tend to just bring my my pinky down and go early in the morning hour, and then this is a different one that's written, song shall rise to thee, right? So that D sus, you're not actually going to play a D sus, you're going to play a D7 over F sharp. Okay, if you listen to the recording, that's much more realistic. He doesn't do and come right back. He's not going to do that. Okay, so morning hour song, and you're just, we're hearing this A minor, right? That's our A minor shape right there. There's your D7 over F sharp. It's already done. Okay, and then when you go to add your G, play the whole G if you want, or you don't have to have that finger on there. Cherubim and walk it down, all the saints adore thee, which word and art evermore shall be. You're going to start at 1, 2, 3, 4 with a straight down eighth note pattern. Okay, that's pretty much how you play this, and it's not very challenging, really. Well, I shouldn't say it's not very challenging. The pattern, once you get it under your hands, is not a challenge. The challenge is staying relaxed to where your hand is calm, anchored, relaxed, and it's not tight. Because if you get too tight, you're going to want to shake your hand. You're going to realize you're playing too tight. Okay? that's the end of the story there. You get a break with the strumming pattern, and you gave up, you get a break there, and that kind of lets you reset. When you get towards the end, our God with us, you got to jump right back in. So remember, you need to stay loose. So whenever I say like play the chords the way you're used to playing them, a lot of times you might notice that a chord doesn't have all the notes present. And you're like, oh, well, if I don't need to play that finger, why would I hold it there? It's just not necessary. Well, that may be true, and if you are at that level, you probably already know how to play this. If not, just keep in mind that what I'm trying to say is this hand is going to be prone to getting stiff from that pattern. And anything you can do to keep yourself in this relaxed anchoring position while you play that without having to think about anything else going on is going to help you. Okay, if you're over here playing this pattern, you start saying, okay, well, I don't need that finger. Okay, that's better. You're like, oh, I don't need that finger there. So then maybe I can go ahead and get down here. Next thing you know, it's not that you'll get tight, but you want to keep your brain calm. So if you cannot play that with a pick, you can play it like this. Everything is exactly the same. The only downside of why I don't like it with a pick is from the for the cradle to the cross, God with us, God with us. I don't like doing that type of strumming. I like strumming with a pick because it also lets me kind of go, God with us. I can kind of jump back and forth from picking and hybrid picking if I'm holding this. I tend to find that when I'm here and I'm playing with my nails, I don't know if you keep nails or not, but I keep them on these 4 fingers, and I get this nice volume. But next thing you know, I have to go. For me, I have a tendency to mess up getting into position for the fingerstyle pattern. There's a huge volume change. Whereas instead, when I'm here, God with us, it's easier for me to jump right back in. But if you do play that pattern, I'm going to recommend that you anchor. You don't have to, but if you're standing and playing this, it's just really a good idea to anchor. Now, the main difference here is now instead of having these 2 fingers together playing this pattern, your thumb is the only one doing it, which means now instead of thinking as if these are your 3 fingers, right? This is 1 finger, and then you have these 2. Now you're playing with these 3, because you only actually need 3 fingers to play this pattern. So now your index finger is no longer playing here. Now your thumb is playing the A and the D, and then of course the low E when it's there. Your index finger is going to play the G, and your middle finger is going to play the B. That's going to cover everything you need to know about playing with this. I think you would be benefiting yourself by learning how to play it with a pick. That's how I like it. You get a little bit more oomph out of it in the first place. And then, of course, depending on how you strum, some people that I know that like to play with more finger style, they might almost like they're holding a pick, but they're using their index. That one works pretty well. Whenever I start digging in, I end up using my nails and all of them, and I kind of, not that flamenco, but that type of roll. But other than that, I think that's everything there is to talk about this song. It's up to you if you want to skip out on those measures on 3 and 6, or the 3rd and 6th measure of each of those little segments. It's up to you. If you're playing the guitar, you need to make sure you're learning and working on that walk, because the walk is half the battle, and then the other chunk of the battle is staying relaxed to play the pattern. Remember, the pattern isn't hard. It's not this. It doesn't jump strings, and it doesn't do a lot of crazy stuff. It's predictable, and it's only for the verses and for the intro and outro. But getting comfortable and finding your comfort spot to play it, and not getting worked up about it. If you can't sing and play that at the same time, don't do it. If it makes you tight and you end up messing up, say you can't sing. Otherwise, you can end up strumming. Like I thought about strumming in verse 2, because in the verse 2 kind of comes in with this holy, holy, holy. And, but it works out really well with this. It sounds really nice. And you could go, if you had two guitar players, you could go holy, 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 all the saints adore thee. And you keep going on from there. But when you listen to the recording, you'll notice that the pick pattern is there in all the verses. Okay? They might have some strumming in there, but remember, they have more than one guitar. And I wanted to keep this part going for that reason. There is an additional line for verse 3 vocally that's holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. It's a really sweet part. Again, I'm not going to sing that high again as I did earlier, but I would have a male do that. Okay, unless you have a really nice wailing gospel girl, don't put that in classical hands. It will not match right. And when you listen to it, it's Matt Morris singing it, and he's wailing it, and that's the point. It's meant to be wailed on, and it's meant to have the melody happening underneath it, and you go over it. I didn't do it for the actual song because I figured, the more important one is actually having the real melody. But that about covers it. So hopefully this long-winded video showed everything that I wanted to talk about. And if you have any questions about how to play it or something to work on, let me know. All right, talk to you soon.